Hi, everyone. Welcome to the final session of India International Brand Summit 2020. And we have the topic Marketing in the New Age, Trends, Technologies, and the Adaptability of Brands. Before I introduce our speakers, I'd like to thank our sponsors and partners on behalf of everyone here at IIBS. Thanking the presenting partner Magnon Group, our media partners NewsX and Brand Equity, digital partner Alt Balaji, knowledge partner TA Pi Management Institute Manipal, talent partner Talent Track, event partner CPM, online media partner Talent Town Magazine, publishing partner Tree Shade Books, and process partner Nine Triangles. Let me first welcome Nandkishore Pillai from Talent Track, India's biggest community of creators. Hi, NK
Hi,
will
Bhakti.
be moderating this panel. Thanks for taking this up, NK. Really happy to have you.
Really happy to be here. Thank you so much, Bhakti.
Let me now introduce our esteemed speakers. The first speaker I'd like to welcome is Mr. Srihari Palangala, Senior Director and Head of Marketing at Dell Technologies. In his current role, he is responsible for marketing strategy and execution to the medium business segment in the Asia Pacific and EMEA regions. An engineer by profession, he has a passion for technology and has spent 2 decades working with technology products in various roles, including business development, consulting, and marketing across the globe. His work experience spans across large technology organizations to startups. Prior to Dell Technologies, he was engaged with organizations like VMlogics, Adobe, Microsoft, and OpenNet Technologies. Welcome to the panel, sir. Happy to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
I'd now like to introduce our next speaker, Mr. Mandeep Singh, CEO and Managing Director of CPM India. He has been responsible for the establishment and strategic planning and development of CPM in India. CPM India has made itself an established brand name with distinct style in India under his leadership. Besides India, Mandeep is also part of the global leadership team at CPM Group of Companies and is the chairman of the CPM Vietnam business. He has been responsible for mentoring leadership team of CPM Vietnam and has helped them become a better and bigger business. Prior to joining CPM Group of Companies in Omnicom in 2007, Mandeep spent 2 years with Forbes Group and 12 years with Tata Group. Welcome to the panel.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. Our final speaker for the session is Mr. Satish NS, Senior Vice President, Sales and Marketing at Hire Appliances India. A seasoned business leader with more than 2 decades of experience, Satish leads all functions for sales and marketing operations at Hire India. His innovative approach to marketing across India has played an integral role in establishing Hire as a preferred brand in the industry. Seen as a visionary with keen understanding of the consumer durable sector in India, in the past, he has held several leadership positions with some of the leading companies like Onida, Samsung, Panasonic, and Videocon. Welcome to the panel.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Oh, that was sudden. Thank you so much for the lovely introductions, Bhakti. You're doing a fab job, by the way, past 2 days. And it has been such a thrill. It's such a thrill to moderate this session with you guys, especially. And thank you so much for your time. IIBS 2020 has been a great virtual experience. In fact, a huge amount of learning in the past 4 sessions, and this being the 5th and the final. We're at the final leg of the summit, and our session topic is marketing in the new age, trends, technologies, and adaptability of the brands. Now, how we're going to be going about this session is I have a few very interesting topics lined up, which I'm going to be asking you guys, and you guys would be giving me perspectives on that. Later, at the end of it, we'll keep 10 minutes for all the audience questions that's going to be coming in. Yeah?
Okay, cool.
All right. There's one question that everybody's sort of pushing me to ask is, since you guys are leading brands, and Mandeep, you've been leading multiple brands. One question is, how was the last 6 to 7 months in terms of the logistics, in terms of the teams, in terms of the transformation? I know, Satish, we've spoken about this, and you have a lot of things. I'm going to keep that as probably like the 6th or 7th question. But I want to start with something heavy. We're going to be deep diving into the science of consumer decisions coupled with technology. So I want to speak to you about neuromarketing. I was sort of doing research and in terms of what kind of trends us sort of growing in the past 5 years or 10. And neuromarketing has been there past 20 years, 25 years. In fact, since brands have come in, everybody's in trying to get into the psyche of what's human thinking before sort of getting into a purchase. I came across this talk by Terry Wu, who's worked in the neuro marketing for more than 20 years. He spoke about a study done by Google. Whenever you search something, you have this sponsored ad that comes on the page, the first page, right? And he spoke about how Google has done experimented with almost 120 blue shades and picked one of those blue shades, and actually that sort of increased their revenue by 200 millions. For a fact that also Amazon has, Amazon sort of increased their speed on their platform by 1/10 of the second, and that increased their revenue by $1.2 billion. One of the most visible strategies that we see or I see on online shopping is the kind of the consumer reviews and the kind of tags like this is the bestseller product or this is a top selling product sort of influence a purchase for consumers to sort of have that kind of confidence before purchasing a product. So what are your take into this, and do you guys are always hunting for such insights or going deep inside the brain of a consumer when you guys deal with the product? Let's sort of start with Srihari.
Yeah, sure. NK, first of all, thank you. Thank you for having me as part of this discussion. I think it will be a two-way conversation. I'm sure we will learn as much from each other as part of this conversation, and later when it opens up to a broader Q&A, I'm sure there are other perspectives that I'd love to personally learn from as well, right? I mean, there is, and I just want to caveat a few things before I dive into more commentary. I focus on the B2B side of the world, not the B2C side, right? So it is more towards businesses, but somebody told me it's no longer B2B, B2C, it's more human oriented, right? Regardless, right? The lines are blurring. The same person is a consumer in a different environment, makes business choices in a different environment. The one thing which I would, and I'd probably just kick it off, I don't intend to make a long monologue over here, but I'd like to just plant the element or the thought around the importance to see data today in today's world as a strategic asset, right? And that sort of underpins a lot of what we are subsequently able to do with it, right? And you gave a couple of examples, in terms of somebody observing the colors, for instance, somebody else observing reviews having an implication on purchase behavior and so on and so forth. I think it's the ability for us to, first of all, understand and capture and value the fact that data is a strategic asset, right? The more you can capture. In my mind, as I've seen and worked with a lot of this, it is non-trivial, right? It is non-trivial. It's easy to say that, hey, data is meant to be an asset and we should work with it. Just mining through the data and getting those insights from it itself is a humongous task. I mean, just think about the precursor to the point that you just made, that, hey, the color could have made an implication on the choice, right? But in my mind, I think having that piece of data or sensing the piece of data is one element. I think the two immediate things that a marketer can potentially do is, try and take care of those things which are repetitive in nature and try and get assistance with that, right? And I'll touch upon why I'm saying that in due course as this conversation proceeds. But I think catching the amount of data and then sort of, making those repetitive things that we typically do with pieces of data, which are probably more descriptive in nature at the base level, probably will mature to being a little predictive in due course, and then it will go into cognitive in some sense, right? And what you were saying around some of the things around the color, etc., is in a different space, but it builds up from being more descriptive to predictive and eventually in a cognitive, right? So those are the things that I put into as from a discussion standpoint to put into that, and I'd love to hear perspectives, right, on how we work with data. What are your experiences with working with vast amounts of data? And then that, I think, will drive a paradigm shift in terms of what marketers are able to do and how effective they can be. So let me pause there, right? And then I'd love to hear from the others and we can have a conversation.
Yeah, anybody can take it up. Satish, Mandeep.
Okay, Mandeep.
Thanks, Satish. I probably will bring a very different perspective, and I say this because, see, you mentioned NK about neuromarketing, and Srihari, you talked about very, very important thing, that how data can be used, or we all say data is important. I think along with the data, there are two other very strong factors which probably are important for the neuromarketing, is a consumer mind and consumer emotion. Uh, it's how a consumer, whether he walks in a physical retail store or whether he logs into a site, how are elements there which create a stimuli for him emotionally, and he reacts to it. The blue color is not, it's a data driven thing which Google probably did, but that blue color is doing something in consumer's mind and affecting his emotion for making either them to click more or to press more. So it's that what is making it happen. And I know what I'm going to say is laughable, but if you go back a little bit, there are certain things which are actually called superstitions. You ask a cricketer and he will wear a certain color t-shirt before he goes and bats. That's called superstition. But you look at the mindset of that cricketer, he feels more confident in wearing that t-shirt. In his mind, he's much more prepared to bat better, and he performs better. Now, whether we call it superstition or in today's language, whether we want to call it neuromarketing, it's up to us. The fact is, there's something happening in his mind which is impacting his emotion. And I do agree, these things are coming to a much more stronger focus or highlight today. But these things are happening since long. When we walk in, and I probably I'll talk more from the retail side. When you walk into a store, you listen to the music, right? There is a reason why that music is there. There's a reason why that music is being played at a certain tempo and a certain volume. Scientifically, it's proven that the tempo of the music will decide how the consumer will stroll within the store and hence will purchase more. Right? There is a reason when you buy stuff from Abercrombie and Fitch, and when you bring the stuff home, it has a particular smell in every one of their apparel when you bring them home. So the whole various, if I can say, senses, how they appeal to you and what makes them, how you react to them, actually is a huge, huge plus. We all are aware how bakery inside a hyper store helps sell more. The whole smell of bread baking is a huge thing, and I'll share a personal experience. I always used to feel when I sit in barista, Costa, Starbucks, my concentration levels are better. Then there was a time when I would go there early in the morning, sit and do some work. Till the time I developed a cold and I realized I was not able to concentrate so much. And the fact was, it was nothing. It was coffee brewing, which was helping me stimulate me and doing it better. So it's these things which have been there. They're being now put together scientifically, and there are brands which are working towards it. Coke playing with red is not just a fluke. They have invested whole lot of time, energy, effort in making sure what red they crack. There's someone who's actually talked about in the chat saying it's all about sensory branding. Maybe it's sensory branding. Maybe it's a way to break the clutter, how brands want to stand out today to make sure that besides the information which is available to the consumer, how certain consumers can be stimulated. So that's a little bit of my take, and it'll be good to hear from you as well, Anis.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the perspective which both Srihari and this one, probably I'm taking another sin out of it. See, probably what we are seeing as a durable industry, when you see it's completely changing in terms of, first is, okay, my customers are changing. I mean, if you, when you look at the basket of products which we have, say, for example, if it's a LED television, the decisions are made by the younger people in the house. Okay. When it comes to an air conditioner, it's made by probably the man of the house. Or, when it comes to a refrigerator, the children doesn't get into this. It's probably the housewife or the lady of the house who decides. Second, you're completely, the way the communication to them has completely changed. Probably earlier it was to be go on a television, so you want to reach them. Now with this, all the digital innovation which has come, your OTT or all those things, now that the way to reach them has completely changed. Even the place has completely changed. Our industry, even today, if you look at it, probably we look at around anywhere product ranging from different product, around 75 to 90% still comes from the offline. But the consumers who are going to go to that store are digital now. So in this multi-complexity, how would you take the decision? Definitely, as you said, somewhere the data has to come in and say, okay, like what Srihari was saying, there is a repetitiveness. If there's a consumer who's fitting into this profile, definitely has some kind of a correlation or repetitive thing which could repeat. So those data, and that's what probably has to look at. I'll give you like how Mandeep was giving an example of the store in a department store. You look at this way. In Calcutta, my black color refrigerator sells like anything. Okay. Same thing when I shift to Chennai, it doesn't sell. In Andhra Pradesh, a refrigerator with a bottom mounted shelf sells. The same thing when I push it to North, it doesn't sell. I mean, it's the same consumer. The refrigerator is a refrigerator. End of the day, you want to keep the same stuff, but why they buy this and why they don't buy there? It's a completely, I mean, as he's saying, a blue color, we don't know. I mean, that's probably the data has to come out. We are still searching for the answer. Okay, but definitely there's some, with this kind of a complexity, I think somewhere the data has to be there. Big data, how much to use? Yes, as Srihari was saying, it's a huge, I mean, we have tons and tons of data. What do you want to do with this data? And what is relevant to you to take this right decision? Or otherwise you will end up choosing a wild goose. Okay, you don't know where you are ending up, and then you realize, okay, oh shit, I moved out completely off the track. So that's the challenge, if I have to say.
I have a question to you all, because the kind of perspectives you've given, it gives me a sense that there is a different approach to almost all kind of psychographics or demographics, or even the medium, so to say, where you put it. Or so are you guys, like, if I take refrigerator, or even if an AC or a laptop, are you guys really thinking about all of these categories on an Excel sheet, probably all of these people who have these likes, all of these, and then sort of target communications, or try to sell it to them in different languages, different colors, different everything? Or
Yes, absolutely. Today, I mean, the complication in the market is completely, I mean, you need to, like the earlier when we used to take it, I'm just going to a preliminary, probably this is the age of digital, but I'm saying in a print ad, earlier we used to release the same language ad. Okay, you take a Hindi or English and then do it. Today, I mean, it's like the Diwali which went, we took a ad in Jagmani paper, we had to do it in a Gurmukhi language, So that's a kind of a reach which is today, I mean, you cannot be like put one, okay, go all India. No, definitely, completely. Your medium has changed, the way you have to communicate, the creatives which you want to show them, that has to change. Probably the one what works in the southern India doesn't work in north, and what doesn't works in north doesn't work in east. So it's not one-stop solution. Definitely no.
Yeah, and NK, the way I've heard our CMO describe it, it's all personalization at scale, right? You want both,
yes,
right? And you want to be, now that's the holy grail. That's eventually where you want to land, right? obviously you can cut it to smaller audience segments, and that's where the trade-off comes, right? In terms of how you're able to do both at the same time, right? And there are trade-offs, right? In terms of like what NS is saying, in terms of the creatives, in terms of the messages you're trying to put in. So yeah, you can do it through certain audience segments. I think that's where the entire element on, what's the kind of data you have, what is it that you can query on the data, which makes sense for the business at a certain point in time, and therefore what should you be doing. So it's a constant balance between multiple parameters that you need to play to land in with a mix which is most effective, right? A marketing mix which is most effective. So of course the holy grail is, like I said, and as CMO mentions, personalization at scale is where we want to get to.
If I can just add, and NK, I'm going back to the question which you asked, which probably NS and Srihari referred to. It's not possible for any CMO or a brand guy to have a huge Excel and keep slicing and cutting it and targeting each and every group at every level. That's not possible. But what is very possible and what people achieve successfully is, how do you cater to different niche at different points? So let's take an example, what NS mentioned about releasing a creative. Now, and I quickly will make a point. I think, first of all, we all need to understand the creatives can't be translated into different language. They need to be interpreted in different languages. Often a lot of people just make mistake of translating the creatives. And we all have seen how Hindi songs, if translated into English, what do? Right? They don't interpret it, they translate it. So if you interpret the creative correctly, it will catch a broader niche. Eventually, that niche will get attracted and either walk into a digital store or a physical store. You need to have the right knowledge at the store level, just like NS mentioned, that the decision of refrigerator is husband and wife, mainly wife, but supported by husband, right? Now you need somebody, whether it's visibility, whether it's your advisor, whether it is promo which is running, whatever you want to create that stimuli, it needs to stimulate both these people, husband for affordability and long-term guarantee and all that kind of stuff, and wife for how she is the caretaker of the home and this is the best thing for her. It needs to appeal differently. And that needs to be achieved so that it could be done. A similar example probably I can think of, Srihari, is if you're talking about a gaming device, the ad or the creative can get the person to ask, what we call a exploratory stage. But the guy who's there explaining the device, he needs to talk about that gaming knowledge, about that gaming language, and that's when the person, a consumer, will stimulate him to make that decision. So there is no exact science, but if you start seeing the consumer journey and what niche is coming there, and then appealing to that stimuli, chances are the results are much more better.
Understood. Great insights. I think this makes a perfect entry to this huge topic that we're all sort of averse with. And I think it's a little cloudy. I think we've got an audience of people who are brand marketers, people who are on the advertising side, and a lot of students who are watching and who are interested in management and brands. I want to speak about artificial intelligence. All right. Now, I'm not going to embarrass myself defining it, but I just want to give you a context as to my study, where I saw buses in China where they're actually detecting people who are the drivers are getting sleepy, or the drivers are even looking here and there. It kind of detects and tells you that, hey, drive properly, or even checking on the phone. We've got, on the other side, virtual influencers or idols who are out of a hologram sort of entertaining people and singing to a large amount of audience, and sort of coming on KFC ads also eating nuggets, and they're completely virtual. So these are the kind of things that brands are sort of doing when it comes to artificial intelligence. And how do you guys explain it, and how is it important, or how do you guys want to take on with it? I don't want to name any.
I'll go first. I'll go first. That's what it is. And I'll take the cue from what Srihari mentioned when he started. In my mind, when I think of artificial intelligence, I first of all not a great fan of machine without the man. I think it's the combination of man and machine which is the magic. A computer does what you ask the computer to do, right? So that's the, maybe not very right, but that's the belief which I come from. But I think the combination of man and machine is great. That's what creates the magic. So if I look at AI, it's like that pot in front of me in which I'm putting whole lot of data. So it's a combination of process, it's a combination of tools, it is a combination of collecting data, analyzing data, and then eventually throwing some result which is useful to achieve a particular decision or to help better a process or something like that. That's how I see artificial intelligence. Now, the bigger question is, what do we do with it? So, for example, if right now we can see comments on the side, if this can be put as the one person who's commenting the most and what are the questions which are coming on the top, I would know that he seems to be interacting more, and I must talk to him at least and answer some of his questions. Now, it's as simple as that, right? But it can be for the entire 2 days of IIBS which you've had. If you were to cull the data, you would exactly know whether which people asked questions on what topic, and if you were to do a small 1 hour session on that topic, how many people would be able to attend or like to attend. You will get all that data, right? The bigger, I'll stop here. I probably will come back to what AI could do or has started doing probably, but that's my take on AI.
Satish?
Okay. Probably, in my perspective, what is AI? What we look at is the probably how, with a certain set of data or probably the past performances or the past history, how do you use that to predict your future in terms of what could be happening? For example, I'm just saying, we are in a durable trade wherein we handle almost about 27,000 retail outlet across the country, okay, through direct or indirect or long arm, short arm kind of a thing. So with such kind of a complication, now today, for example, if my area manager in say Nasik, if he's going, probably if he has to analyze this thing, so much of complication. So we're working on a system wherein if he says, okay, either by it's a language, this one agnostic, where any language, if he just says anything to his computer or his mobile phone saying that, okay, just describe my performance today. So the system should be able to throw it out without even him moving his finger, everything about, okay, this has been your target, this is what is your achievement, this is where you're going, shortfall. And it should also say, if you move today to this area, this is what probably the products which you're not built. So this area would give you a much better result if you travel in this, or if you make calls to this outlet, you would make a better productivity today than this. So that's, in reality, I'm not probably putting it. Probably we will be going live with that in another 2 months into the market. So that's probably how, like Mandeep was saying, how would it help to solve the current issue and in a better way, so that you have a better ROI, which would come into the picture.
Understood.
NS, can I just say something? So this is happening, and this is happening big time, in the sense, monitoring, reading the data, and then pushing the relevant detail to the person to act upon is happening. But you are right that tangible benefit can we quantify them and link it to that is the key.
Yes.
I think that is the key, which you've said rightly. Sorry, Shri, I just wanted to.
No, I think no. Good point, Mandeep. Listen, I think largely covered, and I think in terms of what NS as well as Mandeep mentioned, right? In my mind, I think everything starts. If you were to see it, yeah, there are thousands and thousands of use cases out there that you can think in various industries and functions that AI can be useful, right? Probably the simplest thing is whatever is repetitive, can I just get that done through like a bot or some software, whatever? Can I then, if once that's done, can I predict something, right? That can be the second. And then eventually coming to what I think Mandeep said pretty well, which is the intersection, the human and the machine pieces of it, right? The only additional thing which I would say within the context of this is we should always keep sight of what is the business problem, right? If you have a hammer, everything will look like a nail, right? This looks superb. I have data, I can do this, and therefore I will go do. That's not the point. The point is, what is your business problem? And therefore, what should I ask of my data and my data scientist? And therefore, what should I scale once I can pilot it to a certain extent? That's probably the line of thought. And the hardest part is actually in many ways asking the right questions, because we're all dealing in, all the examples given, right? It can be the color, it can be the store, it can be the sense of smell. It could be, by the way, there is a little bit of assumption we made when we said husband, wife, and that itself is an assumption, right? You can't make the husband and this is the wife does that, right? So asking the right question, right? And then tapping into the data pieces of it. I think that's we shouldn't lose sight of that is all I'd like to add to what the good comments that NS and Mandeep made.
Srihari, you pointed out something spectacular. Often the mistake is done about we have the data, let's do something with it. But I think you are absolutely right, where let's first ask the question and then see whether the data can provide that answer or not. If it can, great. If it can't, then look.
Totally agree, Mandeep, because you can go into, and by the way, the part which bothers me a lot is the amount of churn it causes for our teams. If the right, somebody said this, right? Making things simple is a lot harder, right? So much pre-processing, right? And then you say, okay, in this scenario, this is the world, each and this is like a moot point, right? But the world is incredibly complex, right? And when I say complex, I mean the number of signals which are coming to us. So the false positives and whatever you want to call it is humongous. Right. So the onus is on, hey, listen, what should I really be monitoring? And coming to those small set of variables which can determine the course of your business is critical, right? Otherwise, you will have gazillion KPIs, metrics, everybody will be running behind it. You will have a watermelon, some green, some red metrics, but you wouldn't have moved the needle. Sorry, back to you.
I think that brings me to a very important question, very relevant to people watching also. So you spoke about KPIs, metrics, and as we go on with these graphs and numbers, skill sets changes, people change, the people who look after it change, and you spoke about the kind of struggles that it brings to a team also. So I want to speak about the younger generation here, or people who are trying to be on this side of the world. What about jobs? With the kind of there are predictions that in the last 8 months we've in terms of technology and the growth, we've gone in 10 years or something like that, or it was supposed to happen in 2030. I don't know how true that is. So what about jobs? What are your advices to all the students and people who started 1 or 2 years into marketing and advertising? What do they need to do? What do they need to learn? Is there something more? Yeah, open to you guys.
Go ahead. Why don't you make a comment? I'll add in later.
Okay. See, if I have to say, probably since we interact with a lot of interns on this one, so I can take the point saying, see, first and foremost, whether it's a machine learning, whether it is digital, whether it is artificial intelligence or anything, the basics are very, very essential. The consumer behavior, or the if you have to be in marketing, you need to understand the basics of a consumer behavior. Okay, if you understand that consumer behavior, then you can use the various tools to take that decision. If you are expecting the tools are going to help you to study the consumer behavior, no. Like just now we were discussing, you need to ask that relevant question. Okay, this is a you need to, what does the machine or the data will throw? If you are having a problem, okay, that will give you the probably the various options which you have to take a decision. So if you so hence the basics are very essential. Focus on the basics. Yes, of course, you need to learn the other things, but do not forget the basics. Get the things right, then of course you can add on as many skill as possible for that.
You mean the pulse to just understand who your consumers are and what their journey is?
Yes, the basics, like see, for example, when you're walking in the road, just observe certain hoardings which are there. They would have pasted the full, every inch of that space in that hoarding. Now you see a hoarding, a consumer has only 30 seconds to watch until unless it's in a summer traffic jam. So what message in that 30 seconds I have to drive is what is very critical. So these kind of a basics, I think probably that's, I would say, uh, focus on that, get that basics right.
Understood.
Yeah, I can add and just build on what Enes said. I really like the point he's saying on focusing on the basics, right? What I'd call it is, I'd say, know your domain in that sense. I think that's really what Enes is referring to, right? A lot of people come out of business school and say, you know what, I want to do marketing and nothing to do with the other areas. I just want to focus. I mean, listen, end of the day, if you're marketing, you're delivering a message to a particular target audience, right? The onus is on you to understand the product or the service about which you want to deliver the message, right? You in vacuum, right? And so therefore, knowing the domain, I totally agree, right, is super important. I'd add a couple of points more, especially in case, since you mentioned a lot of folks listening are relatively new and starting. One thing I'd call out is translating your knowledge to make an impact. Okay, all of us have good knowledge. We realize apply that knowledge, right? Apply it. So if you learned a certain model which helps understand, let's say, consumer behavior better, and so, start applying it, right? And then bring it to a little bit of practice. That's one thing I would say, because a lot of times people will keep the two separate and then just don't bring that knowledge to bear. I think as you progress a little bit more, few things you have to be absolutely ready for in today's world. The onus to do more with less will continue, okay? Which means that as you have picked up those initial skills on applying your knowledge, you better know how to start increasing your efficiency and effectiveness, okay? Which is a different way of saying doing more with less. The other thing which I am pretty certain all of us have to do, not just for everybody, is learning new skills on the job, right? You can't say that, hey, listen, this is what I picked, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, right? I think on average, people will, going forward, right, will probably have 3 or 4 key inflection points in the course of their 20 to 30-year career, 30 to 35-year career. There will be major inflection points. So are you ready for that, right? People come to very specific elements. Hey, I want to do digital marketing. I want to do this other thing. Those are all sort of tactics here, if you will. Right? To what Enes said, there's a much bigger picture. Those are tactics. Of course, you should know those, right? But that's not everything in your arsenal. Mandeep, over to you here, or NK.
Mandeep, you're on mute. Yeah.
It's interesting to see how all of us probably mean the same thing, but have our own ways of saying it. And in our language, how we say it is hire for attitude, train for skill. And we feel that the attitude of the person is going to be the key in order for a person to succeed. I completely agree. Knowledge, domain knowledge, ability to transform that knowledge into application is very, very important. I think a lot of that can be coached or come with experience as well, if the attitude of the person is right. I also feel this is the time for people to concentrate on continuously skilling themselves. So there's nothing called uh, you've done it all. You have to continuously reskill yourself. There are two other points which I like to mention, and I think it's important for people like us today and youngsters in different manners. I think interpersonal relationships, handling and managing that is what I feel people are becoming less good at. And in fact, if I can say that they're becoming poor at that. And I'm talking about managing up and managing below both. It really is a problem. That people are not very comfortable doing this effectively, and that is a huge challenge. So I think all the young people who are listening, all the experienced people who are listening, all of us, we need to know how to manage people younger than us. The younger people need to know how to manage people even younger than them, and other way around, how to get managed by. So some of us need to be prepared how to get managed by younger people than us. You know, and that's where the interpersonal relation, making large groups of people working towards common objective, creating team dynamics is important. I think that is one aspect which is missing. People are happy. Uh, Even if you want to appreciate someone, it doesn't come out the way that appreciation should reach the other person. Remember, we were talking about how there are neuromarketing stimulations to the
Yeah.
consumer. Think about stimulation to the colleagues and employees. Yeah, that's equally important.
That makes a lot of sense. Collaboration holds a lot of key. Just on the humor side, we started with neuromarketing, and I think Srihari just took a sip of water, and suddenly I wanted to drink water. So I think the best marketing is to just be on the front of a water bottle store and just keep drinking water. I think your sales would increase by that knowledge on an
And seeing you, I feel like drinking more water.
annual. That's the whole
NK,
thing.
we should shift to the second question. Instead of having somebody in the store drinking water, it's much more effective if you have just a augmented reality person doing the same.
Yeah, I would love some display as just like they just drinking on the side, and it'll be like the viewer. That's great. Yeah. Anyway, I want to get I want to get into something that everybody's struggling, something that some people have done really massive wins. Some people are still figuring out in terms of brands, adaptability of brands in a time like this. And in the last session, we had Manoj, who's the CMO at Big FM, speaking about radio, getting into voice enabled like Alexa, and sort of making their own shows over there. So that is, I think, one of the most contrasting and one of the most exciting thing that I heard, that okay, radio now coming into Alexa, and I could listen to, or people could listen to their favorite RJs on Alexa in the morning while having a cup of coffee. That would be exciting. And they said that 10 to 15% is the only consumer that sort of listens to it in the car, which was a huge notion in me, that I thought the far majority sort of listens to radio in a car. So that sort of opens up a huge amount of avenues for radio in a voice enabled technology that's coming up. What are your takes on how brands are adapting? And is it difficult? Is it the same for smaller brands compared to huge organizations, where they can invest into listening tools, they can invest into analytics, they can invest into all kinds of stuff compared to a smaller brand? Just hold some perspective on brands adapting to technology.
Well, it seems I'll take a go first. Uh, I think there are two kind of things which are happening. Some brands are being forced to adapt because whatever has happened uh, not in a way somebody would have planned it, right? So some brands have been forced to adapt, and the other brands probably were little relatively more prepared. When I say they were not prepared of the circumstances, they were prepared because they were ahead of the curve in the terms of reaching to their consumer through various means and methods. I'll give you a couple of examples with some of our clients that we've been able to achieve. Then I'm trying, since we work a lot on the retail space, I'm trying to tell you how I think one of the adaptability in making the consumer touch is going to be having more specialization. So you need to have a much more specialist kind of approach. We have successfully connected with people at home, advising them on uh, beauty products, advising them on which laptop to buy, taking them through a whole. I hate to call this word because I know it's not a demo. Taking them through a walkthrough of the whole machine, taking them to walkthrough of the whole thing, and it's on a push of a button. So a consumer goes online, asks for a walkthrough, and there's a person actually taking them through a walkthrough virtually. And it's why did it happen? And as I said, one brand did it because they had no choice. There was no footfall happening in the stores of modern trade, and there was nobody. Cosmetics was not up in the ante for people to purchase it. So in fact, it was down below. While the other, which is the purchase of laptops, was going through the roof, right? So, and thankfully, that brand already was in habit of getting in touch with their consumer through other means. It was an example of how one brand had to adapt forcefully, and the other brand which just had to accentuate the efforts which they were doing. So I think the brands probably understand it now. And one thing which I want to say is there is nothing called post-COVID era. This is not the end of it. I don't think we have seen a vaccine will come and this is all over. It will get over, and I'm not a pessimistic. It will get over. What I mean is, just like 10 years back, we used to hear 1 in million people having cancer. Today, if we look around, whole lot of people have cancer, right? I think this will happen to something like this over a period of time. There will be more flus. There will be more larger proportion emitting. And I think that's what brand needs to get sensitive to. I think that's where the brand needs to do a rethink. All of us need to do a rethink. If this is not going to, if this is just the start, or if the habits, see, this is a habit changing time.
Yeah.
People will change their habits, and the brand will have to adapt to it. And that's a sensitive point. It's going to be much more difficult to bring them back to the earlier habit than for a brand to reinvent themselves according to the new habit, or to nurture even a better habit in the future.
Yeah, definitely. I would say, adding on to what, taking forward what Mandeep said, probably our industry was forced to bring in those changes, because suddenly March 24th, all the showrooms were shut. We had probably huge businesses to cover. And just let me add on, probably after the grocery industry, probably durable industry is the one which has really picked up, and we have come out of the thing. And all of us, most of the industry has come on growth and growing. So this change happened suddenly then, and most of our products, like you're saying, it's a touch and feel product. People earlier were comfortable going to the larger formats, go there, spend time, see the refrigerator, see the washing machine. That's a huge. And suddenly when this thing happened now, what do? Probably most of us had to really change so fast during that lockdown. Okay, your agencies are closed. You can't have a new shoot to be done. You had to change everything drastically, bring everything onto online. Even the demos, like what walkthroughs, which what Mandeep said was like, how do you make a walkthrough of a refrigerator? Show it to the thing. So we had to do a whole lot of change, in that thing. So what's a learning which we took is like precisely what Mandeep said. Is the consumers going to go back to the old habit? No. There are certain changes, behavioral changes, which have happened during the COVID. There are certain which will not go back. They'll not go back. Okay, of course, going back to movie theater, okay, once the vaccine is there, everything else, people want to go back to the thing. Going back to a shopping mall, probably it's more of an experience, so people would go back. But there are buying decisions which have changed, are there for permanent. So if we need to, so learning on this one, now we have pushed the entire organization, entire team to see are we prepared for the next things which are coming up, like probably the investments which we are making on digital, because as I said, we are still offline led. Okay, still, of course, there are certain categories which are moving online, but still, now when you're spending so much of money on online, how would you measure that ROI in the retail store? How do you bring in the technology which can bring in and say, okay, here's a person who has seen your ad on digital and he has visited so and so store, and so many visits have been converted, the views have been converted to visits in the store. That's a technology which we are bringing in and then adapting to. Probably we are linking all our almost about this year, our aim is to link about 15,000 outlets with this, so we know exactly the how much store visits we are able to convert from the online views. So this is the adaptability which we probably have moved ahead.
It's a really interesting. I was looking forward to this sort of a journey that you had, that we spoke in our trial sessions, where how Hire has gone through from the retail and now sort of making this hybrid, so to say, model and measure it also. That's pretty cool. Srihari?
Listen, I think just a couple of other things to add, right? One is, I think it is paramount to stay very, very close to the market and listen to the signals that the market is saying, right? In our particular case, for example, right, I mean, technology adoption just shot up overnight. So March 23rd, 24th example that NS said, suddenly every business realized, oh my God, now I have to get people to work from home. They need to be learning from home, working from home, whatever, and therefore they need all this technology infrastructure, which they never thought about. So obviously, it's a different kind of a situation which happened as those days unfolded, right? But when I'm saying you have to keep a close lens to or ear to the signals, it is really on, in my mind, and this is a little bit more leading with more empathy and understanding the situation and connecting on that, right? And let me give you an example of it, right? So technology investment is in many ways a capex investment, right? And so how do you switch from there to customers who now need to they need technology, but how do you sort of help them in a different kind of a consumption model, right? As a potential example, right? And so you need to be able to adapt and do that. So that's sort of reacting to what's happening, if you will, around you in the context of some of those changes. But the very other big part of it is sort of inside out, right? Because you referred to in your question, larger organizations. And I think it's the importance of, I mean, of course, there are signals happening, but how do you synthesize that in, and then from inside out, over communicate such that your entire organization understands the rallying cry and towards that single thread, if you will, right, or to the best it can around that, such that every function and department is sort of coming together to operate against that, and that's critical. I think there's an important element around people and teams being very close to that sense of communication and the sense of signal, and therefore pivoting. And then teams will pivot. Right? So then marketing will say, oh, it's a digital world. What's the best I can do? From the physical to this, etc., and all of those things, that pivots will happen, and everybody will push the envelope. Today, I think we're at a point, having pushed the envelope, that's great. It's also a point to just come back and look at some of the basics to what Enes was saying earlier, right? At any time when the environment has changed so significantly, there is a lot of process of discovery. And it's probably the best time to revisit your basics a little bit and see how does that orient in my new world today. Okay, so and back to you.
Awesome. Just to get a little exclusive insight, what was the 24th, 23rd of March? I think that was, it is kind of getting symbolic now when marketers are speaking about it and how they dealt with it. what is the human element that happened in, you've got 27,000 retail stores and you've got thousands of employees that you guys are managing. How was that collaboration happening? Was it a lot of friction, or there was this motivation, or there was this thing that, okay, we need to get on? How did that happen? Just an insight on.
Yeah, see, initially it was like probably for us, like we have a both off-roll, on-roll employees, almost about 5,000. Okay, who are in the chain where somewhere somebody is linked to a consumer. That was a forced. I mean, okay, we said, okay, showrooms are not open now. We need to look at, okay, during that entire lockdown, we had nothing. But what we did was probably we felt we could sense that, we might have to live with this. Definitely, we never expected that, this could go long so long. But we said, probably future, the consumer who was spending about 2 to 3 hours in a store will not spend that much time in the store. Let's get prepared to that. And that was a clear understanding that, if somebody has to buy an item, he was probably spending about 2 to 3 hours, visit about 2-3 stores. The fundamental change which probably happened, which we could sense that probably a little earlier, is that 2 to 3 hours or probably visiting 3-4 stores is going to go down. And let's be prepared what is that we need to do. So the entire thanks to the online trainings which happened, so we had to rejig the entire organization, the way we worked. Okay, this is what we need to change. So we were like other day I was sharing with you, in that 1.5 months, like, okay, 9:30 to night 11, okay, you are there, switching one meeting to, okay, from Zoom to to Teams to Amazon, same. It's like managing everything, and okay, like you said, on the lighter note, you could hear the children crying that side, on the other side, noises, then you had to get used to it. But okay, it was initially this one, but of course, within that 15, 20 days, 30 days, we seamlessly integrated, and then probably that push really helped. And today, like I can say, in the November, I mean, generally our trade, we have the Diwali meetings, which we call all the dealers to show our new products and everything. Where, like, we used to, like, we had one in Hyderabad where we called about 500 dealers, spending about money, time, energy, everything. Whereas in same thing, at the same scale, the same 500 dealers who were there, we had a broken sessions, very effective. They spent only 45 minutes. We spent about maybe 10 minutes before and after, but the message delivered was same. Okay, and we saved in terms of the energy, the effort, and the money which was happening with the sales communication. So that's the change which we are seeing, and then probably we hope that this continues and the consumer keeps coming back to the store to buy.
Got it. We'll just be quick on this. I think I have very interesting question before we. I think not many questions, but just finish on this, and then last question, and we move on to the audience question.
I'll quickly. Sorry.
Go ahead, Mandeep. Go ahead.
I'll just give I think the first 40 days to 60 days of lockdown was the most hardworking for our people. We have about 8,000 people who cover about 200 plus cities all over the world, all over the India. And we cover a lot of what is called GT, general trade for FMCG clients. And we cover a lot of modern trade. Modern trade was completely shut down, but GT was functioning. We actually, NS earlier talked about the data. We were busy in the first few weeks to give data to our clients, telling them which zone was working, which zone was not working, which outlets were open, which outlets were not open, how long are they open, what is happening to your distribution, which is closest to you. And imagine each retail point, somebody was in a red zone, somebody was in containment area. All that was plotted and given live to the people on everyday basis. So we knew which of our people are staying in containment areas, which stores do they cover, whether they can cover them not, and all this information was going live. The second thing which probably was happening, and as we progressed through it, was because we did a survey on 3,000 GT stores. The GT was the lifeline at this point of time of the entire nation. Everybody celebrated doctors, police people, and they were the heroes. But I think the guy who was giving you supply every day of your bread, butter, eggs, pulses, he was the real hero. And They were opening their shops every day. They were waiting for the distributors to come and give them the supplies. You will not believe distributors didn't give them the supplies. They were asked to go to the distributors to pick up the supplies, and all this was happening. And we were in the midst of all that. I'm linking this a little bit quickly to the brand and their adaptability. We did the survey in which 50% of the retailers says they will like to adapt technology. And they mentioned two things highlighted as two areas where they would like to adapt technology: communicating with the brand and giving orders. So it's not the only big brands are thinking about adapting. It's the small guy who's right, you know, near your house is also thinking. That's the kind of force this has made us think.
Very interesting. Srihari, you want to add in?
No, nothing else to add. I think the only one, spoken from an external market perspective, I think the only other thing I'd say is from an employee standpoint, historically, we've always been flexible. So I think that way it was quite ready. But our ability to be close to customers who were now adapting to the whole remote work and remote learn and etc. scenarios, that certainly needs a lot of
Work.
scaling up, both from a supply chain standpoint and the ability to service and like I said earlier, right, being flexible in their payment options and methodologies and so on and so forth. Anyway, I know we're short on time, but I'll hand back to you. You can continue.
Yeah, I mean, you spoke about being flexible. You spoke about being the next door guy who's into, vegetable vendor. He's also thinking about technology. So I want to ask this interesting question. I want you guys to be as curious and as crazy as possible with the answer. What are the future predictions when I say 2050, or, how is technology going to be there and how are brands going to be behaving? I mean, go all out, guys.
I mean, this year should have taught us that we should stop doing predictions.
Well said.
I was wondering, this year should, if not anything else, somebody I saw some comment, right? If you were to ask someone in 2015, what would you like to do 5 years from now, right? It's something like that. Anyway, but I don't want to get in the way. Please, NS, I think you were going to say something.
No, definitely. I mean, see, digital definitely is in, okay, for sure. Okay. Yes, data, yes, for sure. As your business becomes complicated, your consumers are becoming complicated. So obviously, you need some kind of a handle where you could take your certain decisions and probably, as I said, but my strong belief is whether machine, artificial intelligence, big data or anything, if your basics are not right, probably all that data probably, it can't take a decision. It can help you. All these things could help you to take a decision, but it will not make you, it will not give the decision. So I think this is a change which I think I see happening.
Yeah. No, I think well said, NS, because I just add very quickly, right? I think, like I said earlier, data and the fact that every business will need to have digital as part of their DNA, right? So there is no going away from that, right? It'll probably be to the extent of, what's the role technology is playing pretty much in every business function, right? I know this is a marketing conference, but it's equal. I mean, sales folks will not necessarily be selling the same way that they're doing this year, right? To that point. So technology will have a defining impact on every business. That's a given. That's one. So what specific areas? I think, we talked about AI, we talked about data. I think the whole 5G rollout will have a big impact, right? In the speed at which some of these communications can happen. I think that's around in the space of mobility for sure, right? I personally am a very, very, and on a very personal and very enthused about the role technology will play in a country like ours, right? And the DNA and the approach and the things that we can do at scale, right? It's possible only with technology. It's possible only with technology, right? And we've done humongous steps forward in terms of individual identities and transactions and this, that, and the other. That's just the tipping sorry, that's just the tip of the iceberg, right? I mean, all of that will be just on a different scale as we go forward. Yeah. The one thing I will also mention within this scheme is, I think, the personal element of technology, which felt in the past few months. All of us are still within the corporate sort of, or the company environment, or the working environment. But when you start seeing technology playing a role for senior citizens as well as the youngsters, you mean like the younger kids, etc., particularly senior citizens, I think you're it's going way beyond like a corporate speak, right? And I think we should be thankful for that.
Absolutely.
I completely agree. I'll still bat for phygital more than only digital. I am a huge believer that the spirit of human being will bounce back. Uh, I don't want. I am a huge fan of technology, but I will never want kids not to go to school and study only through digital means. And that's why digital. See, the best technology is what is not seen, and that's what the technology is to do. So I will bat for a phygital era to come, in which human thrives and technology remains on the backbench behind the man.
Wow. I mean, that was pretty cool. I have so many questions, but we've got no time. So I've got few questions. First question is coming from Nitisha. How does complexity of consumer behavior affect the communication with them in respect to color effects? If anybody would like to take that up. You guys can see the questions, right?
Yeah, we can see the question. I think it's a tough one, Nitisha. It's not about so color. I'm presuming the color is as an example. Each person reacts to different thing differently. You could like one shade of blue. I could like the other shade of the blue. The thing is what prompts the response. And very simple thing like why is the plus sign on the ambulance is of red color always. Why is green referred to organic or this thing? Now these are some things in our mind which gives us a sign. So red is always a alarm, stop, danger. It evokes these kind of things. Now there are these generic things, and if during messaging or during any communicating something, if these some kind of things you can generic without aim at consumer, possibly you can have a better impact. But there are now researches available which help you to get to many more details and which brands are using it.
Got it. Palak Malik wants to ask, what are some of the obstacles to AI marketing? What skills do we need to develop to succeed in AI marketing?
Yeah. So listen, I think Palak's question, right? I take a quick stab and it's the others you want to add. It's not so, again, this is a question like, hey, what should I do to be a good digital marketer, right? I mean, it's a little bit downstream. AI marketing, like we said earlier, right? You need to understand what do you need assistance or what are the kind of things you want. Let me give an example, right? So we look at marketing performance data quite a bit, right? And we look at it on a periodic basis, correct? So, and maybe weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever, right? And so that's a use case, right? There may be an impact on that. It's repetitive, right? And so those kind of things are useful. But it doesn't take away from the fact that you need to know your domain, you need to know your product and service, and AI marketing or the leveraging of AI within your marketing portfolio is sort of more like an outcome of sorts, right? In some sense, it will probably be one of the things within your arsenal. I'd focus really, Palak, to answer your particular question. I'd really say, hey, listen, I think you first need to know your domain and your elements around the product and service, right? And then you will know at the back of it, what are the use cases where I can apply AI?
Yeah.
And to answer that, you really need to know what are things which are repetitive, what are things which I can make a decision on a predictive basis, and that's your answer to how you can succeed in AI marketing, in my mind.
Well said. Bhakti, are you cutting us out?
Yes, because we do have a time restriction here. We would like it to go on, but Unfortunately, I don't think we can take up more questions.
That's
Okay.
not cool, man.
That's our red
Thank
side.
you. Thank you, NK, and the speakers for joining us today. It was a great session. Sure felt like the perfect end to our 2-day summit. And if you just allow me a minute, I'd like to thank all the partners and sponsors on behalf of everyone at India International Brand Summit. I'd like to thank Magnon Group, NewsX, Brand Equity, Alt Balaji, TAPI Management Institute, Talent Track, CPM, Talent Town, Tree Shade Books, and 9 Triangles. Also thanking all our speakers who spared time from their busy schedules to give us their industry insights and expertise. And lastly, thanks to all of you all who streamed in and attended the sessions. Looking forward to seeing you all again next year at IIBS 2021. Hope you all have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm Madhu Veeraraghavan. I'm the director of the TAPI Management Institute, popularly known as TAPMI Manipal. I also hold the TAPI Chair Professorship in Finance. I'm an Australian citizen and lived for 20 years in Australia and New Zealand. And during the time, I held positions at two of the world's best business schools, Monash University and the University of Auckland. I relocated to India in 2013 and joined TAPMI as a professor of finance. In 2017, I took over as the director of this amazing business school. I'm not sure if you're aware, there are 5,000 business schools in India. Of the 5,000 business schools, only 5 business schools have the coveted double crown. And TAPMI is on the elite list of 5 business schools to have both the AACSB and the AMBA accreditation. We're now preparing for EQUIS accreditation as well. TAPMI's mission is to excel in postgraduate management, education, research, and practice. So our faculty not only publish in world-class academic journals, but they also bring in some of the research into the classroom. That is because our view is that research-led teaching is quite important, as students must get both perspectives while learning business degrees. As a Tom Prague Business School, we're committed to providing world-class experience to our students. The idea is to identify leadership competencies in our students. Each year, approximately 100 plus companies visit our campus to provide summer internships, final placements, and live projects to all of our students. In addition to that, our faculty also engage quite closely with corporate India in running high-end executive programs. I take great pleasure in introducing the Life at TAPMI video to all of you. So come join me and watch the video.